us in such a valiant way. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hagan. Senator Wicker.
Well, thank you to all three members of our panel. It's been a long and good hearing, and you've all three been wonderful. I have to say, at first, I want to thank Senator Sessions for bringing up the issue of the tanker. And Secretary Gates, I want to say that I agree with everything he said. There were minimal discrepancies last year that caused this award to Northrop Grumman to be tossed out. And one can only read the RFP this year as almost directing a lighter, smaller, and inferior product. And I think Northrop Grumman is absolutely justified to take itself out of the competition at this point. I hope that can be rectified. Admiral Mullen, how quickly can we deploy these additional troops, 30,000 American troops, and their equipment to not just theater, but the ultimate destination, and how difficult will that be? I noticed in the press yesterday, a White House official said the President is saying this has to happen so the military will make it happen. How difficult is that going to be?
It is a big difference between Iraq and Afghanistan is we don't have a Kuwait. So what we deploy into Afghanistan, in great part, goes straight in, and it's not as robust from an infrastructure standpoint, et cetera. So the logistics challenges are significant. That said, Secretary Gates
significantly greater.
They're significantly greater than Iraq. But we've been working this for months. And Secretary Gates said in his opening statement, actually, the first part of the first troops will be there in a couple weeks. And are already under orders since the President made his announcement last night. Significant number of them to arrive in the spring, March, April timeframe, and roughly 20 to 25,000 by the July timeframe. And that is getting them in, getting them prepared, and obviously getting them on mission.
And when will we be at 30, sir?
Pardon?
When will we be at 30?
Later in the summer is the estimate. Summer, fall. And the precision there, well, one of the things that the President did in his decision was give the commander on the ground the flexibility to say what troops he wants when. And we're working our way through that, quite frankly, with General McChrystal, given that flexibility. And so it'll take us a while to be exact, but the vast majority of them will go by the summertime and certainly finish out by the fall.
Have we ever done it that quickly before?
Yes. In fact, in Iraq, we actually did it more quickly because we had a better infrastructure.
Under less difficult circumstances?
I'm not saying I'd say less difficult circumstances.
All right, sir. I'm sort of betting cleanup on our side. About the Allied troops, our hope for 5,000 to 7,000 additional troops from those allies. And by the way, let me say I'm glad, Secretary Clinton, that you hastened to add that the smaller deployments are also appreciated. Secretary Gates, you mentioned specifically several countries as getting an A, and I'm afraid that those that weren't specifically named may be wondering what their grade is going to be. But it appears from what you say, the firm information we have actually takes us in the wrong direction. The two firm numbers we have mean less Allied help. So our decision not to do the 40,000, rather to do the 30,000, is based on a hope and not based on any assurances from these allies. I think that's the testimony today, but I just wanted to nail that down.
Well, the situation that we have is that we have received private commitments from some countries, but because they have not yet announced them at home, we're not in a position to make that announcement for them. I will just give you an example. I made two telephone calls day before yesterday, and I received the assurances of between 1,800 and 2,000 troops, and those
additional troops.
Yes, So, and we've all been talking to different people. So I think there's a fair degree of optimism in terms of the additional troops. And I would also make the point that I made earlier in the hearing with respect to the 40,000. Early in this process, it seemed to me that because the final brigade combat team that General McChrystal had asked for could not deploy before July of 2011, that there was no need to make a commitment to that up front, that I would rather use a smaller number on the American side to leverage both the Afghans and our allies, but General McChrystal essentially is going to get more troops earlier than he would have with the original 40,000 request.
Thank you very much. Admiral Mullen, they just handed me a little sheet of paper. Let me see if I can ask this quickly. You've been doing this a long time. You're a graduate of Annapolis and advanced degrees. When in history has a commander ever announced both a surge and a withdrawal at the same time? And I think that's been very rare in history. And if so, what gives us a comfort level that this sort of approach is going to work?
Well, I have great comfort in the quickness with which we will deploy these forces to reverse the momentum, which is absolutely critical. I spoke earlier to my belief that we will know well by mid-2011 where we stand and which direction, whether we're succeeding or whether we're not. And that, from my perspective, what the President said was to start to transfer responsibility, which is critical as we turn, I mean, it really is the way home as it has been in Iraq, transfer that security responsibility, and then start to transition based on the conditions on the ground at the time. I think that is doable. That, from my perspective, makes sense at this point based on our overall understanding of the situation. And so from that standpoint, again, I'm very supportive of the decision. And the message that it sends to the Afghans, to our allies, the commitment, the resolve that this additional troop force shows as well, all those are really positive message. But come mid-2011, we're going to know whether this is working or not.
Well, I'm going to support this Commander-in-Chief because the alternative is unacceptable. But perhaps you would like to, or Secretary Gates, submit for the record, if you can think of ever an occasion in history when a commander has announced both a surge and a withdrawal at the same time. You're in a very difficult position. You've had to parse words today and make sense out of a contradictory policy, a policy that at first blush on its face is a paradox and a contradiction. I expect the left is going to rise up this afternoon based on testimony, based on your answers to Senator Graham, and protest vehemently the statements that you've made about the flexibility and about the President always having the opportunity to change his mind and do what's right for the country and right for national security. I'm going to support this President. I put great stock, Admiral Mullen, in your statement that you enthusiastically and without hesitation, without qualification, support this policy, and I wish you well. I want to be your teammate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Wicker. Senator Baker.